Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Tonight's story takes us back to Charleston, South Carolina, in the winter of 1889, a time when the city was growing fast, fortunes were being made overnight, and the wealthy kept their secrets behind tall iron gates and heavy curtains. This is the story of a reclusive merchant, a young footman, and a series of unexplained deaths that began one stormy night in a three-story brick mansion known as Rothman Hall. It's a case that, even after more than a century, still divides historians. Some call it a forgotten chapter of Charleston's history. Others insist it's little more than a local legend. But the records, what survives of them, suggest something very real happened there. And the most disturbing part is that the cause might not have been supernatural at all. Aldous Hiram Rothman was 50 years old in 1889. Born into money, he expanded his family's fortune through shipping and overseas trade. By the mid-1880s, he owned warehouses on the waterfront, property in the city, and a sprawling estate 2 miles outside of town. But while Rothman's finances were solid, his health was not. In photographs from the 1870s, he appeared strong and broad-shouldered, dressed in finely tailored suits. In the rare images from the late 1880s, he looked like a different man, thinner, paler, his eyes shadowed. Servants would later tell investigators that he often complained of fatigue, dizziness, and shortness of breath, sometimes struggling to walk from one room to another. This was the Gilded Age, before antibiotics, before safe pharmaceuticals. Wealthy men like Rothman often turned to private remedies, ordering exotic tonics and chemical compounds from Europe and Asia, many of which were untested and dangerous. Records from a local shipping agent show that Rothman imported several shipments in 1888 and 1889, labeled simply as medical glass and pharmaceutical reagents. He stored them in his private study under lock and key, allowing no one, not even his butler, to enter without him present. It was around this time that Rothman began liquidating certain assets. His banker noted that he wasn't paying off debts. Rothman still had plenty of money, but rather freeing up cash for what he called urgent personal research. Those close to him suspected that he was desperately searching for a cure to whatever was wrong with him, and that he had no intention of letting anyone know exactly what that cure involved. By early November of 1889, a new footman arrived at Rothman Hall. His name was Thomas Gray. At 24, he had already worked in 2 other Charleston households. In a letter to his sister, Gray described the hall as grand in its way, though cold, not in temperature, but in feeling. He noted that the master keeps to himself and prefers to spend the evenings alone in the study, with lamps burning well past midnight. For Gray's first several weeks, life in the hall was uneventful. The staff kept to their routines, the cook in the kitchen, the maids tending to the rooms, and the butler overseeing it all. Rothman rarely interacted with them beyond issuing instructions.
but several servants mentioned a peculiar smell that sometimes drifted down from the study late at night, a sharp metallic scent mixed with something bitter, almost like burnt herbs. On the night of December 2nd, 1889, a storm swept in from the coast. Heavy rain lashed the tall windows, and the wind rattled the shutters. Thomas Gray was in the servants' kitchen tending the fire when he noticed an odd glow in the high glass panes above the work table. At first, he thought it was lightning reflecting strangely, but the glow didn't flicker or fade. He went to the front hall and looked toward the drive. Every window in the front of Rothman Hall, from the attic dormers to the large bay windows, shone with a deep, steady red light. It wasn't the golden flicker of gas lamps or the pale blue of moonlight. It was darker, almost like light passing through blood-colored glass. Curious and uneasy, Gray went upstairs toward the study. He knocked on the door, and after a long pause, Rothman appeared. The master looked paler than usual, but his cheeks were flushed, and his eyes seemed unusually bright. He told Gray to return to his duties and not concern himself with the windows. The glow lasted until just before dawn.
2 days later, word reached the hall that a woman in the nearby village, 38-year-old Margaret Lyle, had been found dead in her bed. She had been in good health the day before. The coroner's report, still preserved in county records, listed the cause of death as unknown. On the evening of December 4th, the red glow returned. This time, Butler Ellis gathered the staff in the servants' hall and told them plainly, "Do not go upstairs. Do not look to the windows. You will be paid for your silence." The next morning, a healthy 52-year-old dock worker named Elijah Webb was found dead at home, again with no clear cause. By the third occurrence on December 7th, Gray's curiosity overcame his caution. As the glow filled the house, he climbed the main staircase. He noted later that the air grew warmer as he went higher, and that a faint humming sound seemed to come from behind the study door. Peering closer, he heard Rothman speaking, his voice low and deliberate, and another sound that might have been muttering. Suddenly, the door swung open and the glow poured into the hallway. The smell hit him instantly, metallic, chemical, and sharp enough to make his eyes water. His vision blurred, and he felt the floor tilt under his feet. The last thing he remembered was shapes wavering in the air like heat rising from a summer road. Then darkness. He woke in his bed the next morning with a pounding headache. Ellis told him he had collapsed in the corridor. That afternoon, another sudden death was reported in the village, a dock worker named Samuel Keene. On December 10th, when the glow appeared for the fourth time, Gray decided he had to leave. He waited until after midnight when the rest of the staff were asleep and slipped out the servants' door toward the gates. But when he looked back at the house, he saw the red light in the window of his own bedroom, and in it a reflection of his own face, pale and strange. He felt dizzy, his thoughts clouding. The next thing he knew, it was morning, and he was lying in the village infirmary. The attending physician noted fever, confusion, and rapid pulse, symptoms consistent with acute chemical exposure, though no one could identify the source. Gray never returned to Rothman Hall. A week later, on December 17th, Aldous Rothman was found dead in his study. The official cause was listed as heart failure. The hall was sealed, its windows boarded, and over the years it fell into disuse. Looking back with modern knowledge, the most plausible explanation isn't supernatural at all.
Many of the imported medicinal compounds of the era contained mercury, arsenic, and other toxins. When heated in enclosed lamps, especially ones fitted with colored glass, these substances could produce fumes capable of causing hallucinations, disorientation, and even death. In a poorly ventilated mansion during a winter storm, those fumes could easily drift outside, poisoning anyone nearby without leaving obvious marks. The villagers wouldn't have known it, but each time Rothman locked himself in that study, chasing a cure for his own illness, he may have been slowly killing both himself and those around him. The deaths stopped when Rothman died, and no further cases were recorded after the hall was abandoned. Even so, local stories persist. On cold December nights, some claim a faint reddish glow still seeps from the cracks in the boarded-up windows. Those who've gone to see it say the air smells strange near the walls, metallic, bitter, and a few have even reported feeling lightheaded before they left the grounds. Whether that's just the power of suggestion or something more lingering is impossible to say. What is certain is that in the winter of 1889, 4 people died under circumstances no one could explain at the time. And at the center of it all was a sick, desperate man, a locked study, and a red light that should have never been there at all.